Okay, good evening. We'll go ahead and call to order the Planning Commission meeting for the City of El Dorado, today, March 25th, 2021. Mr. Shivers, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. I got behind there for a moment.
You're fine.
All right, Commissioner Fellers,
Present.
Commissioner Watson,
Here.
Commissioner Long,
Here.
Commissioner Stewart,
Here.
Chairman Tetrick,
Here.
Commissioner Hughes,
Here.
Commissioner Leeson,
Here.
Commissioner Scott.
Here?
We have a quorum at 8-0.
Thank you. Okay, item number 2 on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Any questions, comments, clarifications? Okay, if there are none, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, new business. Mr. Shivers, would you introduce that, please?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. Our first order of business tonight is a request to rezone approximately 5 acres at the southeast corner of Boyer Road and West 3rd Avenue from R1 single-family residential, officially called low-density residential, to R2 medium-density residential. I have that outlined in yellow here on your screen. To the east there, you can see Northern Street. The principal line to the north is West 3rd Street, and to the west is Boyer Road. Central is just off the map there to the south. Currently, this property is primarily vacant land. There's some scattered oil infrastructure on there, some pump jacks and a tank battery and some underground piping. Today is zoned for single family, and it is surrounded by single family residential to the east, single family residential to the north, vacant land there to the west, and a KDOT facility to the farther west across Boyer Road, and primarily vacant land there to the south up to Central, and that new Orshland's commercial development just to the southeast. On the screen, you'll see the differences between the existing zoning. R1 is on the left. R2, the proposed zoning, is on the right. Both of these zonings allow for single-family homes, in-home daycare, parks and recreation, and golf courses / country clubs. With a special use permit, whose process is similar to a rezoning, in which it is a public hearing at a planning commission, followed by a final decision by the city commission, you are allowed an accessory apartment, which is essentially a second dwelling unit, sometimes called a granny flat or a mother-in-law suite in your backyard, a bed and breakfast, educational institutions, and public assembly venues. Typically, in the public assembly venues, we see those as churches in neighborhoods. On the right, I put in bold the 2 land use differences in these 2 zoning districts. You'll see 2-family homes. Those go by duplex, 2-family homes, or twin homes. Everybody calls them a little something different. It is essentially one structure with 2 units in it. It is not true multifamily where there's 3 or more units in it, like an apartment complex. It is a home-style structure. With a special use permit, there is 1 additional land use allowed, called a lodging and boarding house. This is essentially a single-family home where 2 or 3 of the bedrooms are leased out individually. Here you can see the existing zoning in the area. The yellow to the north and to the east is the R1 low-density residential. The subject property, I put it in green here so it stands out nice and clear. It is zoned R1 today for single-family residential. To the west across Boyer Road, that gray is I1, that stands for industrial, light industrial. To the south, that red that says C1 is general business. That allows such commercial activities as retail, office, restaurants, and generally other similar customer-driven businesses. That I1 to the west generally allows things such as storage, manufacturing, warehousing, and automobile-related uses. With our zoning code, when we review these, we have to remember what we are regulating and what we are not. The zoning code regulates first and foremost land uses, exactly what it is that you can do on your land. Regulates lot sizes and widths through our plating process. We do limit structure heights, and we do a setbacks that has to do with the location of structures on your property. Things that we don't regulate, the color of your homes, exterior features, there's no minimums like that, whether it's rented or owner-occupied, quality, size, or income limitations. Our guiding document, the 2030 Comprehensive Plan for the City of El Dorado, recognizes the need for more housing within our city. In the very vision statement, it says by 2030, El Dorado will be a community that has improved the availability and variety of quality new housing options. Within our comprehensive plan, we have a number of goals. Goal number 4 is housing, and a couple of those objectives I put on the screen here for you are increase and improve the supply of quality rental properties, and increase the supply of buildable lots and housing stock to improve housing and opportunities at all price points. As part of our comprehensive plan, we also have a future land use map. These colors are similar to the zoning, except for they show as a guide generally how the city should be built out. The yellow is our residential areas. It's a little difficult to see. The main yellow line going east-west, left to right in the middle is West Central Avenue. These blocks of red is our commercial shops and businesses along West Central. And all of this yellow is our established neighborhoods within the city. Now, this yellow is defined as low-density residential, which includes single-family or two-family residential land uses with a density limit of 8 units per acre or less. So as you can see, the comp plan actually encourages duplexes to be developed with single-family housing. Bear with me for 2 seconds here. I misplaced my next sheet. So with the two-family being compatible, what we know is that across the city today, we have pockets, which are small developments of duplexes throughout our residential neighborhoods. We have a number of individual duplexes throughout the city. And to help encourage this, there is no transitional buffer required between R2 zoning and R1. Otherwise, every other zoning of greater intensity does. Examples that include R3, which include true multifamily residential, commercial designations, industrial designations. So all of those would require an 8-foot fence, landscaping, tree berms, things of that nature to separate those land uses. But none is required between R1 and R2, as it is seen to be compatible together. As with every rezoning, we have to review the potential impacts. The most notable impacts would be additional traffic, as with any new homes or commercial businesses in an area. Luckily, the proposed project here would access West 3rd Avenue directly, which is then near the arterial Boyer Road that turns into 6 or connects to Central Avenue. With any new development or rezoning, there's a possibility of increased noise. The nice part about our intensity of regulations in R2 being so low is that generally the noise developed is what you already hear in your neighborhood. More cars, more traffic, more kids, more adults, things of that nature, not mechanical, manufacturing, or large parking lots like Walmart. Now, a potential impact is always property values. At this stage, it is always difficult to determine what that impact might be. Because our decision tonight is to determine whether or not duplexes or twin homes, whatever we'd like to call them, is appropriate here. As I mentioned earlier, what we don't get to decide is the size of them, the quality, and other features that directly impact the value of those potential new developments on the surrounding neighbors. What we do know is there's a shortage of housing, both rental and owner-occupied. I briefly touched on that in my memo, and I believe Linda Jolly was planning to be here tonight to talk a little bit more about that with you, as they keep up with our housing situation in the city of El Dorado. With all that being said, we have reviewed the request, and we do support a recommendation of approval for that. At this time, I'd like to invite the developer up to come talk a little bit more about what he'd like to do here. This is the property owner, Brian Legali, and his team.
Name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Will Clevenger with Garver, here on behalf of the applicant. Address is 8535 East 21st Street North, Suite 130, Wichita, Kansas, 67206. I'm here this evening with Brian Legali and Chris Bone from Garver, and I'd like to get your approval this evening for the zone change for this property. We feel this would be a good transitional zoning between the industrial and commercial property to the south with the residential zoning to the north and to the east. This is part of a preliminary plat for Prairie Land Estates second edition that was done a few years back, but yet was not final platted. And we had a meeting earlier this week on Monday with several of the neighbors, and they had some concerns that were brought up, many of which I feel that we have addressed, and we would be happy to answer any questions that you have, and ask for a rebuttal at the end of this evening's meeting to address any questions after the neighbors have made their comments and concerns.
We weren't at that meeting, of course. You said some of the concerns were addressed. Which ones weren't addressed, I guess? I mean, and if you could fill us in on what some of those were. I know we've received some letters from several homeowners, and we viewed the petitions, but I guess what were some of the issues that you guys could not address?
Hi, my name is Chris Bone from Garver, same address, 8535 East 21st Street North in Wichita. Brian Legal is with me tonight as well. The concerns that were brought up were various in nature. One was just the idea of duplex homes here to begin with. Number two, there were concerns about some of the drainage and how the property would be developed. I know the preliminary plat will be heard as a separate item tonight, and then as a final plat later. But we addressed some of those concerns about the 100-year floodplain and such, although that doesn't really go to zoning, at least on this case. Concerns just about the density. There were concerns about if they're owner occupied or if they're rentals, and just the general structure of the neighborhood. How would the whole neighborhood operate in regards to that? So Mr. Legale took some time, and he had brought some renderings of the units he wants to build there, gave a little overview of how he would operate the whole area. And there were just a multitude of questions, some of which I'm very certain that you will hear tonight. So with that, Brian, is there anything you want to say to kick it off, or you want to wait till we have a chance to hear everybody's comments? So with that, we'd stand for any other questions.
You guys have any questions right now, at least? None? Nobody?
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll have someone once we get done. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Super. Okay, before we open the public hearing, I just ask that we try to limit each person that wants to speak to 3 minutes so that everybody gets a chance to speak. I think everyone's kind of has the same concerns. And I want to make sure that the commission, everybody did get a chance to review the petition and the letters. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Who would like to speak first?
You can come up here if you want it, it's just, should be downloading. Okay. And then you can use this up here to tap through it.
Yeah, I think we want to go first, if that's okay.
Yep, just name and address, please.
Sure. Of course, this is Nathan's presentation. My name is Chad Palmer. I live at 327 Northern Street. I've lived there for about 8 years. Before I moved to El Dorado, I lived in Wichita. But I've been a 911 dispatcher here for 14 years. So I knew a lot about the city I was moving to when I chose to move here. And I'm glad I moved here. You know, to be completely honest, I knew a lot about some of the bad stuff about El Dorado before I moved here. And still chose to move here. I love this place. It was a decision about where we wanted to live as a family. So where I lived in Wichita, I had a less expensive house that was smaller on a lot that was much larger. I had a half-acre lot in Wichita. I moved to a much smaller lot in a neighborhood with a much larger home because I wanted to be part of this community. So when I bought my house, there was no house next door to me. And I bring that up to point out that I knew the landscape of the area was changing. There's no house next door to me, no house behind me, no houses on the corner, no houses on the other corner. I knew it was going to change. But to be completely honest, I just never thought they wouldn't be R1. I never thought they'd be duplexes. I understand you have a decision to make, about making that recommendation. At the same time, I knew it was subject to change, right? So the Vots, and I don't think they're here, but they were breaking, I was moving in, and they were breaking ground next door, and I'm asking them for help to help move in. so I knew right off the bat that it was gonna change. There would be houses behind me, the view would change, there'd be houses all around, and they have. But I just never considered the possibility, maybe that's my mistake, but I never considered the possibility that the makeup of our neighborhood could change. I didn't realize that was a thing. So I guess what I'm asking is, if the conditions under which I bought my home were R1, and the conditions under which my neighbors built their homes was R1, and the conditions under which Mr. Lagali bought his land was R1, I would just ask that you recommend that it remain R1 and not change the conditions under which we all purchased our land and built our homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nathan White. I live at 302 Northern Street here in El Dorado. I took some time to kind of put together a PowerPoint presentation. This might touch some of our neighborhood, but this is really my direct feelings of what's happening in our neighborhood. I ask you this evening to vote no on the rezoning of R1 to R2. I purchased the land from Raymond Chris, and I built my wife a dream home. Okay? With that in mind, I knew that every other house there was going to be residential lots, single-family homes. I'm concerned about property decline. I'm concerned about drainage. I'm concerned about safety. That entails H2S. It involves basically fencing around tank batteries when they're moved, sidewalks to school, increased crime, traffic, maintenance on the property, and the infrastructure cost. And I really want to touch on infrastructure cost right away. One of my main objectives on Monday evening when we had a public appointment with the builder was, what's the infrastructure cost going to be? The answer was, I don't know. Well, I feel like that puts you guys in a really bad situation, very similar to the Greiler edition, where you guys went out with the three amigos and helped put in infrastructure costs and streets, and then you guys got, the city of El Dorado got the lots back in a sheriff's sale. I don't want that to happen in our edition, not whatsoever. Here is basically the vision of Raymond Chris and his partners when they started Prairie Land Estates. It's changed over time. As you can see, there's a couple streets that are a little bit different. But the main thing is these words right up here. Prairie Land Estates, and this is all of it. I just want to bring that to everyone's eyes. Here's basically the first edition, and it's changed a little bit. You know, they broke it up into sections. The second edition, the preliminary plats included the land where Mr. Lagali would be putting possibly some twin-size homes. And here's Prairie Land Estates. I have a, can you guys see everything? Okay, can you guys see that?
Yeah, we have.
Okay, you have it there? Okay, so I have something circled right here, and that's in Prairie Land Estates second. It's a lot, it's right across the street from me. And right now there's a covenants in Prairie Land Estates first and Prairie Land Estates second. And it is on the books at the courthouse in El Dorado. And it says that in 2026, Prairie Land Estates first, if you have over 51% of the landowners, you can change and get out of the covenants. In 2030, Prairie Land Estates can change with a majority vote of the landowners, and they can get out of the covenants. That covenants is, there's an architectural committee, Raymond Chris, Ted Danker, and Eddie Dean Sr. I've been in contacts with Ted Danker and Eddie Dean Sr., and I will take the position of Raymond Chris here within the next couple weeks. With that being said, that lot has a covenants on it, and I'm asking for you to take this into consideration and say, look, one, this lot is already in a covenants, we're not going to move it from R1 to R2. Everyone bought their lots and built their houses, their dream homes, with the knowledge that everyone was going to have a single-family home there. I want to speed up a little bit here. This is basically a detailed, kind of zoomed-in view of the lot. Here's basically the covenants at the courthouse. The covenants, I've kind of got some things highlighted there. It's really single-family homes and areas not supposed to be of a nuisance to the community. And I would say that basically these twin-sized duplex homes will be a nuisance to the community that we live in. When we were speaking on Monday evening, there was a couple things that we spoke about of property value decline. We were told that the property values would value at $285,000 to $295,000 each. I texted Mr. Legale the other day. He texted me back within a few hours, and he said, hey, here's the plats and the plans of where you can find a house that I'm going to build the exact same thing in Wichita. Well, I pulled up on the county appraisals, and guess what? It's nowhere close to $295,000. Nowhere close whatsoever. Linda Jolly with El Dorado Inc. was in attendance to that meeting and said, the home values in the area are average $140,000. Well, I'd like to ask her where she got her information, because that is incorrect.
We'll ask her.
Okay? Drainage was said that it won't be an issue. And I have nothing to combat that, right? Like, if they say it's not going to be an issue, it won't be an issue.
Now, I can say that the drainage has to be addressed with the plat, that is a requirement for the city, correct? I mean, he's telling the truth. I mean, there's no way around that has to be addressed, so. I mean, I understand the concern, I saw the pictures, and I'm pretty familiar with that area, but that is one thing that 100% they have to address with their plat. There's just no way around that, so.
I asked what the infrastructure cost would be. And I said, my recommendation to the zoning board would be, don't vote on this until you know that. We're opening ourselves up for a can of worms, fellas. And they said, well, we don't have that. And I said, well, why won't you? Why don't you? That should be something that you know right away. I don't want the city to go out and make a rash decision of, hey, we're going to put specials on these lots and just kind of give someone an open checkbook. This is really what I want to show you guys right now. And these are the properties in Mays School District. I don't know if you can see that, but this twin home appraises for $223,000 and had a 36% increase last year in its evaluation. Okay? If you take half of that, it's only $111,000. I said, okay, so let's take another look at another one. Well, half of that's $113,000. Here's the samplings of basically the homes that are around the property that we're talking about this evening. The average value of the house is $199,000. Over $50,000 difference what we were told Monday at our meeting. One last thing that I want to bring up. This meeting was supposed to be last month, but there was a state statute that was not done properly, and it's been corrected. But by the GIS service from Butler County, property within 200 feet before it comes to a vote here by you guys, they're supposed to be notified by mail. This property right here at the end of Northern Street has not been notified. We went and took tape measures the other day. I told the city, look, it's 199 feet, and by the GIS map, it's 199.3.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but how'd you measure through the house? I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, but, I mean, when you're within a foot and we're not sure, I mean, I understand why, but we have petition signatures on here from over 2,000 feet away. So everybody was notified. I mean, I understand you're talking a half a foot and you can't measure through a house, so, and we didn't have a meeting scheduled, so technically nothing was, we were never notified of a meeting, so they didn't like try to shortcut it. I mean, I think it was an honest mistake and it's been rectified. So, I mean, I understand what we're trying to accomplish here, but I think
Well, it wasn't rectified since it didn't get a notification to the right address.
Yeah, this guy still does, I mean, I went and talked with him and said, hey, you know, I think, Mitch, that you probably should come to this
Okay.
hearing, this is what's going on.
But as this commission, we don't send out notices. We're here to discuss and vote on the issue at hand, and that's not if something is off a half a foot.
But the state statute states that you have to mail it out.
I know what state
So you
statute
can't-
says.
Yeah, so you can't legally have a meeting without.
I understand that, but
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to speak up for a minute.
yes.
I made the initial mistake in February. It was brought to my attention. It was an error. Only I made that. I've apologized to Mr. White. We sent out new letters. We rescheduled the meeting for tonight, not last month. When we do this, we use our GIS based on Butler County data. The machine does it, and that's what selects our properties for us.
In closing, gentlemen, I'd like to ask you to vote no on the rezoning from R1 to R2. I think that I've provided enough evidence here that there will be a property decline on our properties, and I'd ask for your support in not changing the current zoning. Thank you.
I did have one question for you.
Yes,
So you had a concern with hydrogen sulfide, which is generally associated with oil and pumping it out of the ground. What exactly is your concern on that property that's not on your current property?
that was a comment that came out from our meeting on Monday, and the concern that was brought up at the meeting is, hey, you're putting houses very close to injection wells and oil wells, and that is the concern that another community member brought up and said, hey, you know, we need to think about this as well when
Did you
developing property.
check that before you built your house?
Did I?
Yeah, or did anybody? I'm just wondering if there's levels out there.
I personally have not checked the property at my house, no.
Okay.
But, I mean, you can, when you're walking through certain times of the day, you can smell rotten eggs. So, I mean, it's not gonna deter me from my house and selling it, but yes, it needs to be something that's probably looked into.
Well, I think smelling it is different than the hydrogen sulfide.
It is.
If I'm correct.
That's correct.
It's
Yeah.
odorless.
Yeah, and by the time, yeah.
The gentleman also was stating it was because of moving of the dirt, not because.
Yeah. Go up to the front, name and address, please.
I'm Brian Martin, I live at 2949, I was the one that brought the information up to the gentleman here about the statutes. But yeah, the gentleman there was stating that you're going to be disturbing the land around the oil wells as well, around the tank batteries, moving all that stuff. That's what his concern about it was. One of my main concern is as Roger Cutts here can attest, I've been in the survey area for career from 15 plus years. He was one of my teachers here at Butler, and I would hope to say I was one of the few that was better than others, but that I don't know. But my main concern is not only traffic, because we've already had problems at Third and Boyer about sight distance and trees. You guys have already addressed that to a certain point, because of trees that are around that area that you can't see. You add more traffic to that area, it's only going to get worse. I have a 13-year-old stepdaughter who is going to start driving, hopefully soon, God help us all, but it concerns me not just because of traffic, but she's going to be younger and not able to judge a lot of things due to lack of experience. So traffic's a major concern for me because there's no stoplights, there's no slowing down, there's nothing. Drainage is going to be a concern for me. As I told you, I've been in surveying for 15 plus years. I've worked for 3 different companies, 2 major engineering firms in Wichita, the 3rd Boston now. And what gets me is that they say that it'll drain. He specifically said they got it at 1.5%. I can attest to you that you can put 1.5% on paper and it'll drain all day long. Infrastructure for me is what I want to make it where it drains pipe-wise, because you can't drain 1.5% on dirt with fences, grass, sod, especially if he's going to be watering, putting wells in. And then also just the class size and everything out there that we've been told that our classrooms are okay, but we can add to them, but we're already adding the 30 plus over here that we're adding, and then these. And another concern is that he said he's going to write down and tell us that he's going to only allow who's in that house to be in that house. I don't agree to that, because you can't tell me just because of who's in there, you're going to drive by there every day and tell me that's who stayed there every night. And I mean, to me, it's a concern for the area of the neighborhood and the kids and stuff. There's other areas in this division down by the schools, down by the college, that the city could very well have brought attention to him for. That is for sale. But yeah, my main concern is traffic, school, how the kids get there. There's no sidewalks, there's no stoplights, there's nothing for the kids to cross. And I mean, I'm already worried about it. My wife drives behind our kids when they ride their bikes where it takes them every day, and it's literally 3 blocks. So it's been a concern since we moved here. We just moved here last June, and we love the area. We don't want to, and I'm the first opponent that says we don't want it in our backyard. Well, we should have bought it before. Well, I never knew it was for sale, and 2, it's zoned as a place that I wouldn't have to worry about. So that's why I would vote, or I suggest that you guys turn it down and say no, because like we said, everybody here is saying that. We're not saying no to single-family homes. We're saying no to the duplexes, to those. The other thing is on that slide that he had up there about last night that Linda Jolly told us that, and Mr. Legay, he also told us that you can't build a house for under $200,000. Well, I went out and knew exactly where I said Angel Fire in Wichita, which I was wrong. It was Falk Run, but Angel Fire's on the north side, Falk Run's on the south. They were building houses for $205,000 with an unfinished basement, 3-bedroom, 2-bath upstairs, 2-car garage. So you can put a house in there for a starter home under $200,000. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
Was one of your concerns, you said something about the sidewalks and whatnot, are you referring to lack of?
Lack of sidewalks. You got sidewalks coming up on the west
I know,
side.
are you concerned about lack of sidewalks at this development?
Well, in the whole, as the city as a whole. I talked to the city, I talked to him Monday about it, and that's something else I want to bring up.
I would just wanted to clarify.
But in this whole area itself, there's no
Right.
sidewalks or anything, but yes, throughout the whole thing, I would.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, my question, we have no say on what happens at the subdivision committee, correct? Our only time to speak is here now. The public is not allowed at that. So how do we go about saying, like, I mean, is that just the rules that you guys already have set up that states what the city can or what they can and cannot do per subdivision committee, or is there a way we can address that?
You're talking about the plating?
Oh, the plat, yeah.
So, the planning commission reviews the plats. It's just that, it's set up to where it's a black and white process. We just have that code and it just meets it or it doesn't.
Okay.
And that's all it is.
Okay. So in the city of Wichita with us as our company, they are allowed to, the city allows them to speak up and say, okay, if this does do this, then we want, like it's saying they only have 25-foot setbacks. We want 35-foot setbacks. So it's further away or less noise complaint. And that's,
I mean, we have setbacks based on the type, R1 has some,
Yeah.
R2 has some.
And I understand.
We don't, no.
okay.
It's
And
not
then
planned area
the
development.
last,
Yeah.
I did have one more thing. There was a lady there that was at the meeting on Monday, and she had stated that the neighbor that owned this previously had given them rights to drain onto his property and off of it, onto his property and down. He dug a ditch. And if that's true, then that would go into case saying that they can't change that per recommendation from previous things. And to me, from my knowledge, is court cases show previously that if it's already established per buying it, it has to stay. So that's something else that the city needs to bring into account. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next?
Jeremy Bolger, 2901 West 3rd. I sent a letter, but wanted to bring up just a few things. First of all, we moved to Dorado about 6 years ago. Job, we rented a house, Sheldon, off of Sheldon, and for 2 years, kind of looking for that home. We spent a lot of time looking for homes, and quite honestly, just out north by the lake, we're just, we can't budget. We couldn't make that work. I mean, that's a really nice area. The next nicest area we felt like was at Prairie Land Estates. It's the nicest area in El Dorado on the other side, and we looked there. We were the last ones 4 years ago to buy a house from Raymond Chris, and we were in the process of that when he passed. And then I got a little hairy, but we were able to make it work. And again, we wanted to be in a neighborhood that was R1s. We wanted that family, that neighborhood around where we could count on people, and that's what we found, never believing that we would end up having R2s built around us. Had we known that at that time, we would have never bought the house. We would have looked elsewhere, potentially Augusta or somewhere else, just based upon our jobs and how far we can live away.
We actually asked Raymond, because we knew that our house was like the only house on that side of 3rd Street. And he showed us, like, no, we're gonna sell these and we're gonna have homes just like this. And we knew it was in that developing stage, and so we thought, okay, this is great. We have kids, and this is perfect. So I don't know all of the drainage facts and all that. I'm not educated on any of that. I'm just coming to you from the emotional side of it, saying that what happened to not being, misled? What happened to standing by what you said? What happened to those values? Because to me, if every single person purchased their house under this understanding, and it's already zoned that way, like you mentioned, why would we think to buy it? Why would we think any different that it would turn into something else? It wasn't zoned that way. And then for one person to come in and just decide that they want to do something different to have their retirement, and that was what was told to us, it's his retirement. Why do all of us have to just deal with it? Because why does every single family pretty much get screwed out of what they were buying? Just because one person wants to come in and change it. And one of the things he said was, he's going to be very careful as to who rents and purchases. It's going to be about $1,100 a month rent. But he also wants more affordable housing in El Dorado. Well, that's a pretty stiff price for affordable housing, because our house, like I said, our house was brand new. And we only pay a few $100s more than that to own it. And we have a full basement, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. And again, we would not have purchased that house had this been anywhere in the concept of what it's going to turn into. And so I kind of feel misled. I feel like someone's changing the game on me after I've already put down the money and put down my roots. And I don't think that that's fair. I don't think it's right. And I think somebody has to step up and say, no, you bought under these circumstances. It was zoned under these circumstances. And If you want some retirement, go somewhere else. That's what I think. And I shouldn't have to pay the price, and my kids in my neighborhood falsely living someplace that was never part of the equation in the first place. And my other fear is that it's gonna turn into, once it's built, once it's there, it's gonna turn into low-income housing, because people aren't gonna pay it, and he's gonna have units that aren't occupied, and there's gonna be some sort of government assistance, and we all know what happens when that happens. And I'm not knocking anyone's disadvantages or anything like that, but I'm saying in our neighborhood, crime, noise, trash, traffic, police presence, all of that is going to be part of our everyday normal, and that is not what we were led to purchase. And we would not have signed that dotted line if that was in the works. And I'll put a for sale sign in my yard tomorrow if this thing passes. But I probably won't get to make the money off of it that I should, because of would get built. And that's wrong, and someone needs to do the right thing by us, and let us get what we paid for, and let us get the environment that we signed up for, because that's what we purchased. And it's fraudulent, I feel like, to change the game on us after. So, that's just my plug, and I hope you do the right thing for us and not one person's retirement.
Question?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Shoot it.
Couple of items here. Some strong language in your letter, maybe a little ambiguous to me. Talk about the statement about planning to erect this development illegally without our consult. That's a quote from your letter. And then the term you just used, fraudulent. That's strong language. Let's be specific, please.
Based upon what Nathan brought to our attention and finding out about it late and feeling like we didn't have we weren't notified, and so I feel like and now we've changed the date so it can be right. It felt like it was trying to be slipped under.
Pull the wool over our eyes a little bit.
And just slipped in without us having any knowledge of that.
You did receive a letter? You did not receive a letter?
Yeah, but it was late. It was after we probably should have received it.
Okay, by statute or just by your preference?
By statute.
By statute.
That was the first one that I've admitted I made a mistake on. I apologize, guys. That's why you got the second one.
But just
that
think
was
for a
just
second.
me.
When that happens, and then we're being thrown a major curveball on, and now we're gonna completely change the game of the neighborhood you live in, it kind of seems a little convenient in our mind. I'm not saying it's not legitimate, and I'm not saying it wasn't an innocent mistake, but when you start adding it all up, you're thinking, okay, who can I trust here? Like, what's the game? Fraud? When I say fraud, it's because when you buy one thing at face value and then you turn around and you change it, that's fraud. I mean, if I spent $5,000 on a turd covered in gold, thinking it was gold nugget, and then I find out it isn't, that's fraud.
What was your other part of that? You had two parts?
I don't have another part of that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Who's next? Anybody else like to speak? Name and address, please.
Hey, my name's Bill Blair. My wife Jen and I own those 4 vacant lots to the north. And, what's that address? 2820 West 3rd. Guys, I think everybody's in a tough spot, okay? Brian's a building contractor, and we're building contractors. That was developed. Somebody called us to say, go build a duplex. I said, heck yeah, let's go do it, okay? You gotta ask yourself, I just ask every one of you guys, put yourselves in these guys' position, okay? People call us and say, hey, I wanna add on a family room. First thing I say is, okay, you want a bathroom? Yeah. okay? I look up and down the street. I said, just for kicks, guys, do you think you can get your money out of this once we do this? So I've already talked myself out of a job, okay? This has happened many times. So we're in a $200,000 area, and they want to add $100,000 to the house, right? Oh, I didn't think of that, we need to go somewhere else. So here they're gonna pay us to build, but they're not gonna get the money back out of it, okay? Now, when I say it's a tough spot, it's a real tough spot. Brian's not a friend of mine, but he's a colleague, okay? I have personally developed stuff like this, and housing additions. The ones that's passed, I had to jump through hoops. We'd have to put up walls. We have to put up barriers. We have to have strict covenants. We have to have kept areas. The value's gotta be there, okay? That's one, if it gets passed. I've seen them shot down so fast, nobody voted okay on it. As a homeowner, I am personally against it, okay? I think there's a time and place for all those kind of things. Raymond and Chris asked us to go in and put the Bulger's house up. And at that time, we thought, shoot, we'll go build a whole bunch in here because it's a good area. Not once was there ever a duplex in mind. So we have time and money invested in it too. So we give our try, and then we all know what happened to Raymond, and things, happen. So to repeat 2901 West 3rd, no way. There's no way that house can be built for that same amount of money. No way. Now, to build other houses there, I think, from my experience only, there's gonna be some tough sales. So these people that bought all these houses out there, their homes always should appreciate, okay? So, I don't want back up to a duplex. The key is, if there was duplex, if this was all platted out, and there's supposed to be twin homes in there, great. That's the way it should have been platted out. It never should have been told to anybody there's gonna be single-family homes there, period. That's where I stand with it. My heart goes out to the people that live there. That's the main thing, okay? So, if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to ask them, but that's where I stand with it. Like I said, I started this off, this is a tough spot for everybody. The city needs growth. I don't know, guys, it just, my main question is, if it is passed by some chance, what are your lot lines? What's your side yard setback? Can there be a two-story? Oh, those are so important.
And those are all in the regulations.
It's tough, it's real tough.
Yeah, we have the R2 regulation.
Do you have those already made up?
Oh, yeah, it's in that
I haven't
2030,
seen them.
it's in that 2030 comprehensive book that we base all of our decisions on.
Right.
I mean, that's what we go off of.
Can there be two stories? Can there be two stories?
Yes.
See,
But there could be a two-story house built there right now. Just
Well,
a single-family two-story
Yeah,
house.
two-story duplexes.
Right, but, I mean, that's the thing that we always come back to, it's already zoned as R1, and I don't remember how many lots were in the original plat, but it looked like there's only 11 in this, so, I mean, you're reducing, so I understand the concern, but they could have built 17 two-story houses there.
Absolutely. I'm Jennifer Blair. We own the 4 lots and then the house at 20 and 20 West Third. I'm a realtor. I've been selling real estate for 25 years in Alva County and Sedgwick County. When we bought those lots, of course, we would not have ever bought those lots had we thought for a minute that there could be duplexes behind them. I've got two people looking at building on a couple of those lots right now, and they're on hold now because they're afraid of what's gonna go behind it, which puts us in an awkward situation because we bought those lots to build houses and not, now we're looking at possibly losing those opportunities now. So it is a big concern, and I think our point about the 2 stories, it's not that 2 stories are a problem, but those lots that they're proposing to build on, they're very small. And so to get 2 homes on a small lot like that might be a difficult task, and so they could end up going up. So if you have all those houses 2-story, it will definitely change how everything looks from the people on the other side that are now viewing the backs and fronts of 2-story homes in areas that we've seen this in areas, so we know how this plays out. So I think that's why there's a question of 2 stories, is could that potentially happen if they can't fit that?
Sure, and in our regulations, you know, we list the minimum lot size for both for R1 and R2. They're pretty similar, the minimum setbacks are very similar, so I mean, I think you would run into the same situation if you were building a single-family home. That your setbacks and your lot size is a little bigger, but they're very comparable.
Right.
And in R1 and R2, you get into the R3s and everything changes, but, I mean, and all that stuff is, you know, already established, so.
I understand that. I'm just saying that when you go from a single-family home, even if it's a 2-story to 2 houses on a single lot, it does change the aesthetic look of it, and it does change people's desire to live in those areas.
Sure.
And so it does then consequently change the value of these houses that we thought we were, like the house we own, it's going to be looking straight out at them, and so it's going to change the value in the area. So that's our, I mean, we'd love to see single family go in there, that would be okay, or patio homes or something like that. That's not what we're talking about. Sure. So that's why we're opposed to it.
I want to reiterate what I was saying. The people that are against it that talked prior to us, they said it a lot better way. My main objective is, and I've gone to meetings like this, I mean, put yourself in their shoes. The only thing I can say, that's it right there. Nothing else matters but put yourself in their shoes. When you bought that home, and you knew for what this wasn't going to happen, and it's happened, how would you feel? That's where I stand with it. We got 4 lots, and we own that other house. I feel more for the people in us than the 4 lots, quite frankly. Now, we can't do near what we want to do with the 4 lots, but there's where I'm at, okay? I just put my 2 cents in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Hello, Kathy Bott. I really wasn't planning on talking, but I'm going to. I live at 331 Northern, so my backyard backs right up to where all this is happening. And I haven't been able to hear everything that everyone said, so hopefully I'm not repeating, or I'm sure I'm repeating some, but it seems like from the pictures that I've seen, the design, the back of those structures are 25 feet from my back fence. Now, right now, there's 3 or 4 of us that live along there, and we have an open field. And you're gonna come in and you're gonna jam these houses in this teeny tiny space. And I'm gonna be able to reach over my fence and, you know, practically touch it. And that's not what I signed up for when we lived in this neighborhood. We built our house in 2014. Before that, we lived 10 and a half years over on 4th Street, 4th and Boyer. So the other complaint, short complaint before I get to my other concern, is for Doug Adelsberger. I'm surprised that he's not here because his house is right at the corner of 3rd and Boyer, right where that drive is going to come in and out. And those people And that you said there's 11 duplexes, well, that's 22 families. And that could be, if you double the cars for each of those, each of those families, that's a lot of traffic. Or people coming and going and bringing their kids home, or, coming to and from practice or whatever. That's a lot of traffic to dump right out in front of his house, instead of it going to Boyer. But I've also had big concerns. We have big drainage issues behind our 3 or 4 houses. I talked to Raymond Chris about it before he was gone, and I talked to Ted Dankert. And Ted Dankert, we had a guy come out, and he made a nice drainage ditch that drained into that little creek or whatever it is, and took care of some of our drainage issues. But there's drainage issues out in that area, and I can't imagine if you put more in here. And I know you say you'll address it, but I worked a long time to get just what we got from Raymond and Ted, because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. So there are, as they've added houses, as you guys redid the streets, all that it just keeps contributing to the drainage issues. So I just think these are too many houses jammed into too small of an area.
But you had asked, I got some clarification. You had asked about the rear yard setback, and it's the exact same from a R1 to an R2 as long as it's on a curved street.
Okay.
So in that original plat, if it's along a curved street, they're 20
It'd
feet
still
from the
be the
back.
same.
It doesn't matter if it's R1 or R2. It only changes to 25 feet if it's a straight line road, which there's no way you could have that straight line road because it would dead end at your
Right,
back
that's
of your
me.
house. So it's the same setback, which, that doesn't matter.
Well, maybe if there was just not as many, I don't know, but it just seems like it's just too
Sure.
much for too small of a space. So,
Right.
thank you.
Who's next?
Can I just ask a quick clarification on what you said?
Sure.
Come up, please.
Yeah, come up here.
Sorry. Just wanted to clarify, and I'm going off of what Nathan had up here, but wasn't it platted straight originally? Would that change the setback?
Yeah, it changes it to 25, but that would dead end at the back of those houses, so that would have to be a cul-de-sac, which would be curved.
There was a
those
small
houses.
cul-de-sac there.
So that would be a
Cul-de-sac
curved
falls
lot,
through.
and then it's 20, which, that's,
I appreciate you clarifying that.
yeah, on a straight lot, yes, that is correct, but once you get into the curved lots, it changed to 20.
Thank you.
Who's next? Anybody else?
I'm Catherine Gifford. I've lived at 2834 Western Street since July of 2008. I'm single. My sister lives with me now. And I'm worried about the property values and stuff. But what I'm really wanting you to know is the neighborhood that we have. We have children. And the thing I have loved about it is that those children are monitored. And usually you have a bunch of moms hanging out. We have a bunch of fathers that watch what their children are doing and have done since they've moved in. So I've watched the neighborhood increase. Yes, there's more traffic, but the kids are safe. They're monitored. And so that's another aspect to this changing of the zoning. Not just the property values, but our neighborhood. We have a Facebook. My sister's dog was returned because somebody kept an eye on it. And so we have that camaraderie that I think is just as important as all the other issues that we were talking about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Addie Fulmer, 327 Northern.
I'm sorry, who?
Addie,
Thank-
ATTIE.
Thank you.
Fulmer. 327 Northern.
I just kind of wanted to piggyback off of what our neighbor said. My husband and I have one child. Our neighbors across the street have two. We have about, I think when we moved in, initially, when we first moved in, we had over half of my son's entire class lived in our neighborhood. They've grown up together, but like she said, we have all become a family. We've become that community because that's what we've wanted for our families. We've wanted to have the community that I had growing up in a small town. You know, we moved from Wichita, we moved to this area because we wanted a place where we could have a family, not just my family, but everyone's family. The location of these houses, these duplexes, like my husband said, we knew we were gonna have neighbors. We wanted more neighbors. Our concern is that, like you said, they are gonna be roughly the same distance away as our neighbors across the street off of Western. But the dynamics are gonna be very, very different. And we just ask that you take that into consideration, that it's not just about, like they said, one man and his dream of retiring, and the community's ability to grow, because I think we can grow. We can grow as a community without having double the amount of people in one very small location. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jay, I got a quick question.
Sure.
The original plat, how many lots were there?
Hold on.
Oh.
Shelley, you want me to close it first and then we can discuss?
If there's no one else, I'm sorry.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Because if not, we'll close the public hearing and then we'll schedule. Okay, one last time. Anybody else would you like to speak?
The last thing I just want to say is,
Please. So everybody.
I just don't understand how one person can come in with this idea and it changes the design and the makeup and what everybody has. I don't understand.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will close the public hearing. Any discussion, questions amongst the commission? Now you can ask.
Jay, how many lots were originally on the plat?
17.
And how many on the current proposed plat change?
It's 14, but it includes one that's already platted. So it's platting 13 new lots, and then there's the one on the southern and the northern that's already platted with Prairie Estates Second Edition.
One clarification, there was no final plat
Right.
on this
I meant the
land previously,
original
with the
design.
exception of the lot there in the south.
Okay.
East corner.
And ultimately, we're not reviewing a specific project. It may happen, it may not if the rezoning's approved.
And I had one other question for slight clarification. On the little triangle there that's to the west of the property in question, it's marked C1 on this diagram that you colored in. Can you briefly give us a summary of what would be allowed to be placed on that?
Yes, let me swap the slide over. Take off.
It's just on that, where it shows C1, is also known as in flood. It's a floodplain, so really nothing can go there unless it's built up.
Like the 6 foot of, or 15 foot of dirt at Walmart?
Well, that's what I'm saying, and then you're gonna run that dirt where, or that waterway.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, I'm just concerned about the zoning and what would be allowed in a C1. That's not my judgment on what they
No, I was
put.
just asking.
Okay, we closed the public hearing, so that part's over. If you have a question, you can ask Jay.
Yes, so what I was gonna follow up on was that exactly. So it is zone C1 for retail, restaurant, customer-driven industries. However, the challenge is with that triangle in the lot to the south is that one, it is within a floodplain, so it's difficult to impossible to develop. And secondly, there's a very large oil pipeline easement that runs northwest to southeast across there. So there's little to no development opportunities here. Now, that being said, I will tell you that when property comes up for sale within the city of El Dorado, I know about it pretty early because people call and want to ask if they can build on it. To date, the current project, we're not reviewing the project, we're reviewing the rezoning with the project. Tied to it is our first residential interest that I've heard on this property. Before that, around last summer to last fall, I had multiple calls, I put it in your memo, about commercial uses here. Now, as a staff member, I recommended against those commercial uses here, obviously knowing that to the west and the immediate south would never actually develop into commercial. But as far as the market interest goes, to date, it has been primarily commercial.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I got a question for Jay.
We're good.
Where the duplexes, twin homes are going, where each one sits, is it the same as any other lot in this addition?
Is it centered on the lot? Or?
No. Is this lot got the same amount as this one or any of these? Each house,
You're talking about the setback sizes?
the square footage of the lot, I mean, they're not,
If I recall, I thought the lots were a hair bigger because the proposed duplexes, the 2 units, are going to be larger than a single-family home when combined.
so it's not that the lots are gonna be smaller or,
Now, the R2 does allow slightly smaller setbacks on it. Like we mentioned earlier, like your side setback goes from 10% of your lot width, with R2 it's 7 feet minimum. Your front yard is right here 25 rather than typically 30. And for example, one thing we'll see on our plat next is the minimum front yard is 25. The southernmost lot on Northern, I've asked the engineers to change that to 30, so that if this is all approved, and if that lot is built on, it would be consistent with what's there today.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Mr. Shivers, can you talk a little bit about the previously zoned and platted lot at the south end of Northern, and whether or not it is reasonable or feasible to ask that remain as platted and under the covenants that it was originally platted under?
All right, I understand which lot. What was your exact question?
Whether or not that lot can, whether or not we can encourage or stipulate that lot remain as R1 and be taken out of this rezoning request. I'm asking for a friend.
You know, we're talking about specific properties and locations. I don't know why that would not be possible. My opinion is that would fall within our boundaries of what could and couldn't be zoned that way, if that's something that you're considering. And that would be a lot that we could clearly call out as excluding it from the rezoning.
I mean, because the way that I understood it, it was already in another plat?
That is correct.
That's correct. So I guess how could it be included in this one if it's in one?
Well, in the
It'd have to be replatted.
You can replat it, yes.
Right.
And this
so,
happens sometimes.
I mean, as far as we're concerned, we should exclude said property until it's replatted.
But on the rezone, if that is the will of the board, then you could probably make a motion that excludes that specific lot.
From this rezone request, at which point it would simply revert to its current platting and could potentially be not replatted.
Right, but it would stay R1.
And the reason I ask is because I do have some appreciation for the covenants and restrictions under which that piece was originally platted. It has been platted, and And I think that's a reasonable request on the south end of Northern Street.
Okay. Any other questions?
I think I've got a general question for the rest of this board. I'm trying to understand, I mean, this is not the first case that we've heard in the last couple of years where it seems that R2 is being considered and perceived much differently by the public and the neighborhood, as I would argue, certainly presented as dramatically different from R1. Certainly the comp plan doesn't imply that. My training and experience in my career over the years doesn't imply that, but clearly the public perceives that. Do we really know why that is?
But I agree, and I live in a neighborhood, and it's a nice neighborhood, and there's townhomes in that neighborhood. There's only 3. They're not in our subdivision. They were built, I think, by the same builder. It doesn't affect my property value at all. And to be honest, I hadn't even thought about it until today. When I drove by, I noticed that they were duplexes, essentially, for the senior center there. So, I mean, I understand where the concern is for the property value, but I mean, you can look at the guy's rendering, and he's gonna spend X amount of dollars on this project. He's gonna try to make the most money that he can out of the houses. And the rental market in this town, I don't know if that's out of line for a 2-3 bedroom house, but I mean, he's not gonna just try to give the things away, I wouldn't think. And I know there was some concern I saw in one of these letters of low-income housing, and I think that the builder addressed that that's not what these are. And so it kind of goes back to your original comment that the R1 stipulation seems to have really veered from what R2 is, and they're actually pretty similar as far as our comprehensive book is concerned. Go ahead.
Are the frames are gonna be rentals?
Do what? Yes.
The frames are gonna be rentals?
They are rentals.
They are rentals?
Yeah. $1,100 a month.
Yep.
11.
On the low end.
Yeah, on the low.
Commissioner Watson, let's be careful. We're not approving a specific project tonight.
Right.
All we're looking at is the rezoning from R1 to R2.
Time for the public to speak.
Do we know what percentage of the R1 that's on the screen right now are rental houses?
I didn't bring that.
Who carried this petition around, I ask? Can we get him to come back up or not, is not? No.
Okay, we'll open up the public hearing for the applicant, the one that had the petition to speak, and we'll limit it to that.
Okay, thank you.
Since we have more questions.
I have a
You're fine.
question that,
My name's Nathan White at 302 Northern Street. I am the individual that started the petition with everyone's support in the whole community.
okay, thank you. Your petition, your document here is very well done, I appreciate it. But concerning the people who signed this, do all these residents that signed the petition, are they all homeowners?
Not every one of them are homeowners. Some of them are basically like someone down the street that's renting that said, hey, you know what? I really don't want to be in a neighborhood where we're going to have a ton of influx of crime or, where we need to worry about.
So there might be some rentals on Marmonton and Hunton and Simpson.
Yes.
There's rentals in that area. There are rentals in the area.
I would agree that
And you don't object to that.
there's none in the immediate area.
You're talking about northern and western.
Northern and western, no.
Okay, all right.
And everyone, basically, where we're talking here, this area, here, and here, everyone has objected to this.
Okay, the people on Marvinton, Hunton, Simpson, Fourth, Fifth, so forth, did they sign this petition because their value was gonna go down or your value was gonna go down?
Well, we have some people in the community here that can answer that.
No, well,
when you had them sign
they
it-
had the opportunity to speak.
That's
We're
right.
not,
No,
we're
we
not going
can't-
backwards.
I'm asking you, when you had them sign the petition, what did you share with them?
I shared basically this document and said, hey, what do you think about this? And they said, I'm concerned about my property value going down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question
Okay.
for the,
Yeah, go ahead.
for Mr. Nathan. Item number 6 in your petition exhibit, well, it wasn't an exhibit, but item number 6, leading up to your petition, talks about land contamination and new location of tank battery. Specifically addresses the fact that there's land contamination there, potential for that contamination to enter the wetlands, concern about oil production on that site. I guess I would ask respectfully, do you think the property as it sits hurts your property value?
I don't think that it helps, but I think that right now it's there already, right? Like, I bought it knowing that it was there. I don't think that it hurts my property value today, no.
Okay, so addressing drainage issues, which would be required by city policies. Addressing did the mineral rights go with the land purchase?
Yes.
Okay, so the owner is in control of the mineral rights and has absolute control of that process relative to state statute that guides how those items are mitigated. So the ability to deal with that in a proper way, and the ability to deal with contamination, and the ability to deal with the drainage, I guess I'm still struggling how that doesn't help your property value. The next point I would make is the property value is irrelevant to this discussion about land use. It's not irrelevant to the public, and we're not saying that it's not something you should pay attention to. But I guess at some point, I would just want to say out loud that this property owner that's making this request, they have personal property rights just the same. You have personal property rights. I'm up here to protect that. But that landowner has property rights as well, and their ability to enjoy those property rights, I think, is fundamental. And so, to me, it really boils down to whether or not R2 is a significant stretch from R1, and whether or not we think, based on the introduction line to the R2 designation, whether we think R2 is going to be a detriment to the neighborhood. I haven't been convinced. The density is less.
If you could tell me that this appraised for $500,000, $250,000 on each side, I'd tell you right now, hey, poll everyone here and see if that's a concern for them then.
What if they appraise for $1.5 million?
And guess what? Probably wouldn't be a concern about bringing down our property value, would it?
Well, but would it?
No.
You can't guarantee that.
Of course not. And that's what I'm saying.
But it's history. This is past proceedings. All duplexes are less than mine.
Well, but again, it's not that's not relative to land use. It's a low or medium land use that I don't think is inappropriate adjacent to R1. It just isn't. So So that's where I'm struggling with. I certainly appreciate everybody's coming out tonight. I've driven in the neighborhood. I've experienced the neighborhood. I understand it. I get it. I've been affected by adjacent property owners that have significantly reduced my property value in this city. It's very real to me because I have experienced it. I'm not trying to suggest it's not real to everybody here and everybody in that neighborhood, but I'm struggling to justify that R2 is an incompatible use adjacent to R1.
Thank you.
Are we done with him? Thank you. Okay, we'll close the public hearing
Thank
for
you,
the
Mr.
last time. Any other discussion amongst the commission or any questions or thoughts? Now's the time to speak.
Is it the developer or potential developers' thoughts that they were going to move the tank battery and all that stuff?
I would direct those to the developer if you'd like to invite them up.
Yeah, would you please come back up?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
In order to address persons with questions in our discussion, does it necessarily have to be a public hearing?
No, because when we talk to the applicant, the public hearing isn't open, correct?
Right.
So it would be just an extension of the original applicant's discussion.
And once the public hearing is closed, the chairman can call on people to ask
To
questions
speak.
too.
Yes.
Okay.
But
Thank
yeah, since the applicant portion isn't part of the public hearing, but then we can just call.
Agreed. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, what was your question?
Is it your intention, or if this was approved for rezoning and your development went forward, to relocate any parts of the tank batteries and pump jack and or add to?
I'm working with the oil company right now. I'm trying to get, I just seem to see the pump taken out and the tank's going too. So that's my goal, and we're trying to work something out.
I see.
Okay, are there any other questions for him before we are done with him?
And Commissioner Hackler, they cannot increase oil production on their property as far as more infrastructure above ground. All of that is grandfathered in
I see.
and not allowed in today's zoning,
Okay.
R1 or R2.
So it's basically what they have now or nothing?
Correct.
Cap the wells and move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Last time, any other questions for them? Thank you. Jay, I have one more question. Did the city have a chance to verify the signatures on the petition?
We received them Monday. It's an informal petition. We trust that they visited
Sure.
everyone. No, there was no easy way in a
No.
timely manner to verify
There's
anything.
Any other questions? Okay, if there are none, I would entertain a motion either direction.
I move to recommend approval of case number 21-01-REZ, an application by Brian Langley to rezone 5 acres at the southeast corner of Boyer Road and West 3rd Avenue from R1 low density residential district to R2 medium density, with the exception of the south end of Northern Street.
The southern lot.
Yes.
And do we need to put the lot number in that? I mean,
If you're referencing the southernmost lot in the Prairie Land Estate subdivision,
Yes.
that's correct, and that's really not good enough.
do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a roll call? Mr. Schiff?
Commissioner Fellers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hackler. We can circle back.
Please.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes?
Chairman Tetrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hackler.
Yes.
The motion to recommend approval passes 8-0, and we'll move forward to the city commission for the final decision.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda. Item number 2, new business.
Thank you.
Item number 2, new business.
All right, I will keep this brief. As we just spoke about and saw, the proposed preliminary plat for Deer Run Addition. It would create 14 lots. It creates 13 lots, but it includes the lot that we just discussed in the southern end of the Prairie Land Estates second edition. It also proposes one new right-of-way cul-de-sac there, right in the middle, Deer Run Court. And I'm going to keep it at that. We have reviewed it. It meets our subdivision regulations, and we recommend approval of it. This would give them clearance to begin work on the final plat. If by some chance, if this is denied by city commission rezoning, then this is all contingent, of course, on the proper rezoning. This is based on R2. With that, I'd like to invite the development team up just to talk a little bit about the plat for you.
Names and address, please, even though you already have.
Will Clover with Garver, here on behalf of the applicant. Address 1335 East 21st Street North, Suite 130, Richland, Kansas 60206. And this subdivision plat, as Jay said, has 14 lots in it, one of which is a replat of there at the south end of Prairie Land Estates. It had an unusual lot line on that was curved, and to straighten that out, we wanted to go ahead and include that in the replat, make that a little bit easier to work with. And I don't know if there's anything else to add other than.
Well, my name is Chris Bohm, again from Garver, the same address. And I've been working with the city on the drainage. We realize there are drainage concerns here, and we want to get the drainage out. Mr. Legale has no intention whatsoever of putting discharge or drainage on any of the existing lots. We want to get that water out. We owe it to the neighbors. There is a floodplain that encroaches in that triangular commercial piece. New mapping shows, based on new, more current LiDAR, which is contour, airborne contour elevation data, it's wider, but there will be some fill that's going to be required in here just to make sure we're above the 100-year base flood elevation for all the homes. And that will be taken care of with the improvements on the site. With that, I would answer any questions that you would have.
Does anybody have any
Mr. Legale's here to answer any questions as well.
You guys have any questions, comments, concerns?
I'd like to hear reaction from the three of you regarding Lot 10 as you propose remaining under the current platting and zoning process.
Brian, it'd be this one, so the zone change would exclude that.
I can understand your point on that, so.
Sure.
I don't have a problem at all with that.
Is that something we need to note, like when we approve this, since that was a condition of our?
It can still be part of the plat, even if it remains R1. We have to probably just double check the lot sizes and make sure that all those things still, but plat-wise, it can still remain on the plat if they choose to replat it. We'll just double check to make sure that it meets those requirements, if that's how it plays out.
Okay.
Yeah, my thought was if it remains under the previous plat, then the covenants and restrictions that
would stay,
that the other homeowners are concerned about could remain in place. But again, I'm asking, not telling.
And you know, I haven't thought about that, if that would carry over even if it's replatted to a new name. That would be a legal question beyond me, probably. Same legal boundary mostly. Unless you have any input on how that might work with the covenants.
I think it would make more sense to leave it in as it is and just exclude it
Okay.
from this, yeah.
But that doesn't affect the preliminary plat, because you can change it from when we approve the preliminary, correct?
Exactly. We can approve it with a condition that something be adjusted, of course. Yeah.
Perfect.
There's a question regarding lot 11. If your intention on filling the new platted proposal here is with the twin homes, are you intending on putting a duplex twin home on 11 and accessing it from second and northern area? Was that was the intention?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions?
Wouldn't
The
it
only entrance, egress and egress is on Third Street? Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
And we have so we have the cul-de-sac, I see. Okay, so we're not gonna enter off of Boyer Road at all, are we? There's no word, I guess you don't own that land, do you?
No connection between Northern and the roadway interior to this plat.
And Northern's what they were worried about.
To explain a little bit of that history, it was 2007 that the Prairieland Estates Second Edition preliminary plat was approved. And in that case, it did, Second Avenue continued, turned northwest before connecting to Third and had a small cul-de-sac in the middle. Now that preliminary plat is good for 2 years before it expires, in which case, what made it to the final plat was the sections along West Third Avenue and Northern. And they chose not to do the final platting on this interior piece here.
If you exclude the southern end of Northern there, is that knocking out 2 of the houses?
I think the discussion was just on that lot 10. I believe the lot 11 would still be existing on here.
But originally, you would have put a twin home on 10 as well, right? Right.
I follow. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, there is no public hearing. Any discussion amongst you guys? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the preliminary plat of the Deer Run addition with an adjustment as discussed in the rezoning case to consider leaving lot 10 as presented under the previous final plat of Prairieland Estates Second Edition.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Shivers, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Fellers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hackler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes,
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Tetrick, Commissioner Watson.
yes.
All right, motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Okay, item number 3 of new business.
Okay, last but not least, we have Bernita's Acre addition. This is a plat in reverse, as it turns out. This property has 3 homes existing on it. For sure, one of them is in the 1910s, and the other 2 were built before 1950. I could not find the original dates on them. I provided an aerial. I should have put that in your packet for you to give you an idea what we're working with. This is the layout here in the middle. So you have the 2 houses in the front and the 1 in the rear. So the subdivision regulations allows for the planning commission to issue variances in certain circumstances, while most variances are handled by the Board of Zoning Appeals. In this case, with this plat, it needs 2 variances to be approved. One is to reduce the lot width on lots 1 and 2, the front 2 lots, to 49.37 feet. And then the second variance request is to allow the rear lot to access a public street via an access easement. All new lots that we create in town are required to access directly a public street. However, like I said, doing this in reverse, it's kind of an unusual situation. It is a non-conforming lot that the owner would like to get to conforming status and possibly sell some of these lots. With that, I'd like to invite Mr. Cutzinger up to talk a little bit more about it.
Name and address, please.
Yes, Roger Cutzinger, Savoy County, I'm at 120 North Main here in El Dorado.
Thank you.
I'm the agent for Bernita Weber, who is the owner of this property. And like Jay said, these are existing homes. Some of them are front, especially they were quite old. And she has a desire to sell those 2 front ones. And the permanent, on the south side of this, you'll see the dotted line there, a dashed line. It's a permanent ingress-egress easement that is by deed that she has to get to that back house. And so that is her access.
Excuse me, Roger, where's this at on Topeka?
Yes, it's on South Topeka.
South Topeka?
Yes.
So can you,
Pardon?
okay.
Whereabouts?
Just north of Finney intersection.
Yeah, right
Yes.
down Finney.
I know Penny. Yep,
Yeah, it's in that
in that
neighborhood.
area, okay, it's west of Douglas,
East.
East,
east of Douglas.
east of Douglas. Uh-huh.
So the one in question is the one in the middle, right?
Yes, sir, yeah, it's this one here with these.
Right.
Well, with the house, whatever the house area is the
Yeah.
issue, right? That's the non, well, I guess the other
That
two.
would be on lot 3.
I mean, those would be two houses on the same lot too, so I guess it's all.
Right, there's three on one lot.
I don't know how they came to be,
Yeah.
it was decades ago.
So, you know, by allowing the variances, we're solving a problem with being able to sell those as individual homes.
Sure.
So we're gonna sell lot 1 and lot 2 individually?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what she wanted to do?
Yes.
And keep lot 3, and she lived in lot 3?
Well, she did. She just recently got remarried and moved to Udall, but she's not going to sell it right away, is my understanding.
Okay. How do you access lot 3? Where do you?
That permanent
That's
egress
a
on your
permanent
drawing.
egress easement by deed.
It's on your
Right
drawing.
here, just
Okay.
out there.
Yeah, that bottom part.
Jay asked me to add a note to the plat stating about the variances and the permanent ingress egress easement, and I put the book and page on there as well. So everybody in the future would know where that came from.
So what's the minimum lot width right now, Jay?
70 feet, so R1.
Oh, that's right. I got that
Lots
right
dating back to the 1950s are 50 feet wide.
Sure.
Back in that era.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got that printed out.
And the intent here at 49.3 feet, maybe these were intended to be 50-foot lots at one point in the front. They're old enough to be.
What are they, 49?
Yeah, 4937.
4937, yeah.
And what's the depth now today, 150?
142.
Yeah, 142, yeah.
What today's standards, it's 70 by,
That one's in our subdivision regulations for the minimum depth. I don't have that one off the top of my head.
okay.
I might point out that lots 1 and 2 do meet the minimum square footage. 7,000 square feet is the minimum.
Yeah.
So she owns all 3 homes?
Yes.
Any other questions for Ray?
Houses on lot 1 and 2 get back 350.
Yeah.
And you said in those days you got it, that's a 50-foot. So literally this could have been done then, and we couldn't do anything about it today.
That's my guess. We have a number of 50-foot wide lots back then.
There's a lot of homes like that in this town.
And our ordinance allows for the building of homes on 50-foot lots, as long as they were platted before 1951, which is really the core of the town. So it just says as long as you can meet these reduced setbacks, so that we don't have these old lots just becoming unbuildable, so.
Right.
Yeah. Now, new lots today, they do have to be larger, minimum 70 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Cutsinger, this permanent ingress egress easement, you've shown a book number and page number. It's already in place, in force.
Yes, has been for a lot of years.
Okay.
Just a dirt road in.
It's a gravel drive.
Yeah, it looks gravel from that, but.
But it is under the ownership of that L-shaped
Right,
lot.
right. But it is a permanent easement.
Anybody else use that road?
The folks in the back on the L-shaped lot do, I'm sure.
Yeah, south and east. But it's on their property.
Yeah, it's on their property.
Yeah.
The road is on their property, on the L-shaped, yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole reason they're, yeah.
Yeah.
They gotta get
Yeah, sure
access
is.
to that back house.
If she didn't have the permanent easement, she wouldn't even have access.
Yeah.
Except off of the front, which there's no drive going back to the house now.
Okay.
Commissioner Long, the minimum lot depth is 100 feet. And
Today's
these-
100?
Yes, sir. These are 142 and 157.
I was like, if they were meeting the square
I
footage.
live in the old part of town, and mine's 50 by 150,
Mhm.
which is pretty standard, I think, in that
3 to
neighborhood.
1 ratio usually on lots. That's the maximum.
Yeah, that's what you'd use.
Thank you.
No other questions for Roger? Thank you. Okay, there also is no public hearing. Any questions for you guys up here? All right, if there are none, we'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the final plat of Bernita's Acre Addition as presented with the following two variances. Variance 1, to reduce the minimum lot widths on lots 1 and 2 to 49.37 feet. And variance 2, to allow lot 3 access to a public street via access easement.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Shivers, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Fellers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hackler,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Leeson,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Chairman Tetrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Plat is approved, 8-0.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Shivers, do we have any old business?
No old business,
Any staff items?
no staff items.
Okay, if there are no staff items, do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
A second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.